Nerd Rage Renegades.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of the C2E2 trilogy that we have for you. So much that we did at C2E2, we had to split it up into 3 episodes, so this is number 2 of 3.
Yeah, maybe 4 if we...
Maybe.
Who knows? We got a lot of stuff.
It's so weird. I gotta turn this light back on because I still haven't changed the light bulb in my office yet. It's surreal seeing you on a computer screen after we've spent so much time together the other week.
Yeah, we're far apart again.
It's like I just want to be there. I just want to hold you.
Good news is
Safe.
C2E2's in March.
Oh, really?
Next time, yes.
Oh, we are set for that one, buddy.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You know why that's going to be good? Is then I won't have to miss my kids' spring break either. I can be spring break with the kids, C2E2 in March. Fuck yeah.
Be a little colder, though.
Hey.
Better bring a coat.
Come on, we stood out there watching girls, and this is completely 100% factual, everybody. I'm not being crude or anything. There were girls, we would be outside smoking, and it would be like freezing and snowing, and they would still be out there in like the miniest of mini skirts, no jacket going to the club, alright?
It was weird because it would be like, it was like really late. It was the one night when we got back. I think right when we got back from Lloyd.
Yeah.
That was when a lot of them were leaving. They were heading out for the night. I was like, man, it was freezing cold.
That was like after 11 because we caught the last bus goes at 10, and then of course getting through Chicago, it was like 11 before we got back there, and yeah, they were like.
Well, yeah, there was an accident too. There was like some kind of accident that held up the shuttle for a while.
I don't know what club they were going to. It's probably in my younger days, probably a club I would be like, yeah, let's go. My older days is like, no, my feet hurt. Let's go up and lay down. Let's go watch some Bill Ding. Troy Young, hey, big boy.
Oh man, he put that one the other day was really good. The solo one he did.
Oh yeah, with the 20-minute like bus chase through the city and through the highway. I have no brakes.
Yeah, he tried to say he had no brakes.
So this episode is going to be really fun, I think, for everyone listening. It was fun for us. We've got 3 interviews on this one, and then you're going to get more interviews next week in next week's episode. But this one, we're putting this one out. We were talking about which interviews we want to go out first. This one is This one is right time because this. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, that means Action Comics 1000 has hit.
And we've read it, which you'll hear later.
1,000 issues. Is this now? If I'm not mistaken, Action is the first comic to hit 1,000 issues. As far as like a mainstream comic book hitting 1,000 issues.
I can't think of any other ones. I mean, there may have been some that have maybe. I don't know if they've gotten there, but been renumbered so many times you don't know. So I don't know.
Yeah, like Spider-Man's in what, like the 900s, 800s, something like that. Thor's only in like 700s. Fantastic Four, if they were going, are pretty up there. If you had a Fantastic Four, but yeah, if you're talking about even with renumberings, I mean, Action Comics has more than 1,000 issues if you're actually talking renumberings. Well, you add in all those renumberings.
Well, annuals don't count either in special issues and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I just got at the con number 254.
Yeah.
And now we're at 1,000.
1,000.
Fucking how many issues between? That's a lot of issues.
That's a fuck ton of issues. And we had the honor to sit down with Pat Gleason, who's been doing the art on Action Comics for this current run, and who has him and Tomasi.
I was on Superman.
Yeah, they're well, yeah, okay, they were doing Superman. My bad. But they have a story in this. Scott Snyder has a story in it. Dan Jurgens.
Oh yeah. And Action 1000, they do a story in there.
Yeah, there's so many people in 1000, including the debut of Brian Michael Bendis, which a little bit of a format change. If you are listening to this, a little bit of a format change because of everything we got at the con. And because of the contacts we made at the convention with many different publishers, we're now going to be getting a lot more review copies of books to review.
Yeah.
So we are actually adding a second show to the week, Renegade Reviews. I think that's the name I'm going to go with on that. Renegade Reviews, and that's solely going to be the comic book reviews for the week.
Yeah.
That way, it's a little easier on us because we can put these reviews out. We can take our time with them. We don't have to keep looking at a clock going, how long is this episode? How long is this episode? Give us a little more time to actually talk the books, which is what we love to do.
Like, basically, we just have, like 10 or 15 minutes at the end of this to say, like, whether we liked it or not. We don't dig into it, like, as hardcore as we could with a whole other show. Plus, we've got other publishers hopefully going to be letting us review their stuff pretty soon.
We got Boom, and I'm making some contacts. I still got to email a few, but we're going to be getting a lot more books and be able to actually talk some books that we've read over the week that we thought that even if they're not new books, we can also talk about those. It just gives us a little more talking time for comics.
Yeah, when are we going to start doing it? Because they haven't started rolling in yet. So we're going to review them DC until we get our other stuff coming in.
Start reviewing it, but that'll start this Thursday. Renegade Reviews, same everything. It'll be on the Podbean. It'll be on the everything. The only places it probably won't be will be the iHeartRadio for now, and the It'll be on Podbean. That'll be Podbean, and our YouTube will be the main places
for sure.
Those two.
For sure. We don't know about the other ones, like Filling the Void and all that. We don't know how many shows they actually want from us.
Right.
We're giving doubling up shows every week on them. Here, let's put this out too.
Right, but the review shows will be on Podbean, Stitcher, Player FM, and Google Play and iTunes. The review shows will be on those platforms. While the main show will still be across everything. It's just gonna allow Chief and I to do what we love best, and that's talk comics.
Yes, and more titles and different publishers and stuff will be even cooler. It'll be a show into itself.
Exactly. But getting back to the topic at hand, Action 1000, when we were at C2E2, we had the pleasure to sit down with Pat Gleason, artist on Superman, who has a story with Peter Tomasi in Action 1000. Some really great. Chief had some really great questions about things that have been going on lately.
Yeah. The only thing is, I totally forgot that those guys didn't do the 2-issue arc that was a few back where they went to the other planet and tried to save another planet. I was off on that for a second, but other than that, he's a really cool guy. That was my fuck up.
But he answered your questions and told you what he thought about that storyline.
It went into an interesting direction about Superman's religion and all that stuff too. So it was actually a good thing to kind of broach the topic, we should say. And but it was kind of cool to. He's a really cool guy, and he gave a lot of his time and more than we actually thought, because there was the interview after us was late, so we got a little extra time with Pat Gleason. But he's a really cool guy, and he had a lot of good things to say about Superman.
So, let's go to the con floor on day 1 of C2E2 when we were able to talk to Pat Gleason.
Yep.
I'll try and go.
That's fine. We're here with Pat Gleason, currently writing Superman.
Yep.
What's been going on in Superman? My co-host knows, but you tell everybody else what's going on in Superman.
What's going on in Superman is everything is backwards because we're dealing with Bizarro verse and introducing new characters like Boy Zorro, Rob Zorro, and all kinds of weird, wacky hijinks.
Now, and that's basically since Rebirth. That would mean the Bizarro world is now back in in play.
Yes.
And that's a different Bizarro than what's being currently in like Red Hood and the Outlaws, because they have like a clone Bizarro.
Right. Yeah, this is a totally different Bizarro. We kind of wanted to deal with the different feeling Bizarro. You know, someone who could basically be a villain again. And so yeah, this is the multiverse side of Bizarro with the Bizarro world. I can't pronounce how you say it backwards. Harrow or whatever. It's really. You guys think it's hard to read Bizarro speak? Try writing. It's infuriating. Well, the thing I'll say about reading it is if this is your first comic book, don't read this. Don't read the Bizarro speak, because you'll never want to read a comic again. It's supposed to be difficult to read. It's supposed to be kind of give you a headache, because that's what Bizarros do to Superman and John. So maybe we took it a little too far. I did tone it down a little bit by the end, because after a while you're just like, okay.
Well, I thought it was cool because the characters, even Jonathan Kent is confused. Like the characters themselves are confused talking to the Bizarros, and it kind of translates to the reader. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to do, actually.
Right? Yeah, we didn't want to do something where Superman is always all-knowing. He understands this. He understands that Bizarros are hard to talk to, and that's what John is learning basically through all this. And there are moments where the reverse speak is kind of poignant and heartfelt, I think, and hopefully if you're not too hung up on it, it'll come across and you'll get the meaning behind it. But
one of the things I wanted to ask you too is one of the things I really like about one of the things I really like about the Reverse Superman is his relationship with Jonathan Kent and him learning to be a father and taking examples from his own childhood from the older Jonathan Kent, teaching him, and it's not necessarily always translating from a Kansas farmer to tell a superpowered boy, try to teach these lessons, and he's doing his best. But what do you draw inspiration from your own life for the lessons he's trying to teach Jonathan?
Sure.
Or from things you've been taught by your father? Or
yeah, actually it is. I mean, it really is a father-son book. And yeah, I think I was raised in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas and Missouri and Iowa and Wyoming. I moved all around. Pete and I actually joke that he's Batman and I'm Superman because we approach things that way. And yeah, I have a family and a son, and the way I was raised definitely comes into play. And actually, the Kent's farmhouse is modeled directly off of my great-grandparents' farmhouse. So it's like I have pictures of their house that I've been using for that. And we just wanted to do a father-son story because it kind of spun out of the Pa Kent and Clark Kent feel. I'm being distracted here. My Vince, get out of here! I'm trying to be professional here. Now, we wanted to do that, the Pa Kent in Smallville, but we didn't want to be in Smallville. We wanted to make our own place where John could grow and have his own Smallville, which is Hamilton. I feel like in a lot of ways we got some pushback, and by we I mean me, from Pete directly probably, which was it was so corny and almost too idyllic in some ways. But I feel like that's what people kind of want to see. That's Superman.
Yeah, I kind of feel that's Superman. That fits. I've loved you guys' run on it, so it's wonderful. And I also love the juxtaposition. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
The juxtaposition, the way Bruce is raising Damian, and when they come into contact with each other. And I just think it's great how you guys you show that corniness of Superman, that Kansas compared to Bruce's Gotham hardcore. You're going to do this,
right? It's a culture thing too, because it's the way I grew up, which is you say yes sir and yes ma'am, and you don't talk back to your parents, which is the opposite of Damien, and so it's kind of hard, writing, because you kind of, comics, thrive off of drama and conflict, so it's actually harder to write them getting along sometimes and not pushing back, but really at the core, what I said coming on a Superman with Pete, when I came on to write with him, I said what we should do is the conflict shouldn't be within this family. This family should be stable and sturdy, and I'm thinking back to like growing up watching, like Nick at Night, watching, Andy Griffith and, Little House on the Prairie.
There's a little bit of that in it. You can see the Andy Opie.
That's exactly it. It's Andy and Opie with them. And it's because we wanted the world is hard and difficult enough, and we want that. We wanted to show a strong family unit with the outside pressures of a real world that we all deal with, kind of coming in on them, rather than the Batman and Robin, where it's the inner turmoil, pushing outward from their relationship. And it's something that I think it's really been nice, because I've had so many families, and a lot of fathers and sons, or sons that said, like, I shared this with my dad, or my dad shared this with me, and we read this together. And it's like, wow, really? That's
as a
that's hard to hear.
Aside, my father was a huge Superman fan.
Yeah.
He passed in 2009, and but my father and I always had that bond to Superman always. For your run with Superboy and Superman has just been great for me.
Thank you.
And I also like the arc a little while ago where they went to the alien planet when he's trying to show Jonathan the destruction of Krypton, where he had the.
You're talking about Robinson's, the James Robinson issues? There were 2 issues.
That was
that was James Robinson wrote those 2 stories.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, that was my mistake.
That's okay.
I'm terrible.
Hey, look, it's a bi-weekly book, and we got behind, so it happened.
Yeah, well, honestly, I mean, they send them to us, and we review them, and I just read through them, and I sometimes regrettably don't always check credits.
Well, I can talk about it, obviously, but I don't want to take credit for it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that some of that stuff's going to carried over after that arc into the stuff you guys did. But I was wondering, seems to be they're getting more like into Raoul and Superman's belief in higher power and his belief in a god.
Right.
And I was wondering if that came from anywhere, if anybody's personal experience of teaching a child about religion.
Well, it's funny because no offense to James, but that was the one sticking point, because we didn't really have any say on that. And I think that in my mind, Superman definitely has a history and a past that I think you get into a weird place when you mix like actual people's actual faith and beliefs into a fictional thing, whether you fall on you believe it or you think it's false. Either way, it just kind of muddies the water.
It didn't seem like there'd been any mention of that earlier on, and then all of a sudden you get these 2 issues where he's teaching Jonathan about Raoul and God.
Right. It was funny because the place that I always came from with Superman is, he's from Krypton, so he's got the heritage of Raoul and all that, just like any immigrant from another country. But he was raised in a Midwest. I would assume, I don't think they actually ever said a Christian home, but we see them going to church, and like in the movie they go to Man of Steel. I don't think it ever gets into there, but I think it's
the denomination vague,
right. I think it's implied there's a belief in a God, right? And this is that kind of a thing. So
most Midwestern.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it's a weird thing to try and deal with in 2 issues. I think James, did what he thought was right in that. I would have amended some of it a little bit personally, just in the way I see Superman in that conversation, which I think it's a weird. That's a whole other podcast. But then, ironically, though, then in the next issue, I'm writing this completely on not knowing. I didn't know the story, the James Robinson story. We were never shown it by DC.
So there's no back and forth between you guys. Like, I'm going to do this. And
No. It was all editorial. But then in the next issue, I had John praying, trying to fall asleep, and so there's this bit where he's doing his "Now I Lay Me Down to Sleeps" in there, and so it kind of all worked together, I guess. I think it's just what it is the difference of like I don't want to say cynicism, but when you get into like Batman and stuff like that, it's very black and white. Everything's like that. I think Superman's more about hope, optimism, that looking for the good in things. And so I think that the spiritual side of it could play a little better in there. I don't know.
Now the last thing I want to ask is, Action Comics 1000 is coming out, big milestone, and you've got a story in there.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be on first of all, it's such a milestone in comic books, and then also kind of coming up on the end of the Superman run for you?
I know it's funny because it's like I remember. For people who don't know, I used to be Doug Mankey's assistant, and now we work together on Superman, and it's awesome. But when I was his assistant, he was working on Action Comics 775 with Joe Kelly, which was the introduction of Manchester Black. What's so great about Truth, Justice, and the American Way, which is still one of my favorite Superman stories. And I remember thinking then, like, wow, 775, like, and I remember like doing the math, like, when will you guys, are you going to be on it until issue 1000? Like, that'll be in the year 2018 or whatever it was. So being able to like be on that book is amazing to me. I don't feel like, I feel like there's so many other people that should have a place before me. But I do appreciate that people like what we've done and on with Superman Rebirth, and so we really just, honestly, I just want to do my best, the best art I could do in that on Pete's story, and to be able to stand alongside all these greats that are in this book. It's like, it's amazing when I see the lineup. I'm just like, this is like dream come true time, like, pinch me, ma, like, I'm dreaming.
What are those I've made it in comics?
Yeah, it really is, and it's the really cool thing is, look, I've also preceded this by 2 years on a book of Superman that started with Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks on Lois and Clark, which was bringing this, in my mind, the true Superman back to fans, and
right.
So, and then giving us a book to go alongside him on Action. Spend 2 years on it, develop these characters, and grow this story, and really get to do some of like some really really nice Superman moments in my mind. I really was into just to kind of end it all with this Action 1000. It's just amazing. It's really great. So I feel really grateful to be able to do a Superman book that fans like, and new fans of Superman. People are coming up to me saying, I've never read Superman before, but I'm reading it now. I'm like, that's great. Like, I don't know how often that happens. So I feel really, really, really blessed and privileged to do it.
So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Good to meet you guys.
So that was one fantastic interview with Pat Gleason. It was, what I thought was really cool about that is we were right there at the DC booth for that. We were like in this like VIP cutoff area of the booth.
Yeah, they gave us like director chairs to sit in.
Yeah,
with Pat Gleason.
and we kind of sandwiched Pat Gleason. You were on one side, I was on the other, and it's fun because we're like passing the recorder back and forth.
Yeah, well, Pat Gleason held the recorder for part of the interview.
Yeah,
he was holding it for us. I was like, oh, you want me to take that? You don't have to hold it. And he's like, no, it's fine. But yeah, he's a really cool guy. But you'll have to forgive me and Spin, because this. A lot of really cool things happened at this con, and it was kind of our first like big, like where we were actually getting invites to do some of these kinds of things, and so it was really. You'll have to forgive us if we fanboy out a little bit on some of the stuff, because, and we can't act like we've been there before, because we haven't been there before.
The only thing, like, you've heard interviews that I've done solo at like Virginia Comic-Con, but those they're mostly I walk up to the person and say, "Hey, can I get like a 5 to 10 minute interview with you?" It's not
this is like we
where
had press conferences and premieres and crazy shit going on. So we're a little giddy,
just a little bit, especially with the next interview. He's actually at this point he's an old friend of the show's almost. He was on our original show we had.
Yeah.
And then he was on this show not too long ago. Cullen Bunn sat down with us on day 3 of the con. Really?
I wish we could have got Jimmy Z over there.
We're gonna get him on the show proper though. We're gonna get
that'd be cool. He's a really cool guy. And I got to say before we get into this. When we were waiting to set up with Cullen, we stood there and talked to Jimmy Johnson, or Jimmy Z as he's known in the comic cover world. But he's co-writing The Tick with Cullen, and he was at the table, and he let us sit there and bullshit comics with him for a good 35 minutes. Yeah. Wait, because Cullen was at a panel, and he was trying to make his way through the con floor, and I'm sure he was getting stopped by everybody. And people were talking to him, and it took him a while to get back. So while we were waiting, Jimmy was really super cool to us, and I just wanted to say that just to give a shout out to Jimmy.
Definitely.
But very cool.
And then Cullen was like, hey, if you can come back first thing the next day, because we talked to him on day 2, he said, come back on day 3, we'll do the interview. So this is where we kind of, last week, if you heard our kind of ways to improve the con with press being able to get, like, through the lines a little bit quicker, we had to wait in the bullpen on Sunday with everybody else, that, you know, all the general admission. And as soon as they cut, like, the ribbon to let everybody in, I mean, we bolted to Artist Alley and bolted to Cullen Bunn's.
We caught him right in the nick of time, like a perfect opportunity, and we had plenty of time to get what we needed and get out before the crowd rushed in.
So you're going to hear us talk about some X-Men Blue, because he's been writing X-Men Blue. We're going to be talking The Tick, and we're going to talk about Harrow County, which is his book that just wrapped up at Image, and then what's coming next from Cullen Bunn. So back to the con floor, Artist Alley, row M for Cullen Bunn.
First of all, Cullen, thank you for taking the time with us again to be on our show again.
Happy to be here. Again.
Yes. You've had so much stuff come out since last time we talked. X-Men Blue has been out for a while now, and you got Harrow County.
Yes.
And The Tick.
The Tick. Yeah. A lot of books, man. I gotta keep hustling.
That was one of my questions. Like, how do you write so much stuff? How do you keep it all straight?
So, you know what? Honestly, sometimes I don't. You know, so don't be surprised if you see the Tick running around in X-Men Blue at some point. But you know, it's some days are easier than others. I do try to keep a lot of folders and organize my stuff into different. You know, I keep all my information organized into folders, both on the computer and in hard copy. But also I usually only work on one project on a given day. So I won't be doing multiple things multiple books in one day, because then it just it becomes real messy in my head.
Gotcha.
With X-Men Blue, we'll start off there. Taking the original X-Men that have been time displaced, but also throwing in new characters like Bloodstorm and all these other characters. What has been the process of bringing in these newer characters? You know, Bloodstorm, the Ultimate Wolverine, and then the time travel. Still making these characters still fresh and kind of different than their original counterparts.
Right. Well, you know, it's when I was assigned this book, I was told this is the original 5 X-Men, and I pitched different teams. I was like, let me tell you a different team that we could use, and it's not that I don't like the original 5 X-Men. It was that they weren't my X-Men that I grew up with. Mm-hmm. You know, when I really got into X-Men, it was the Claremont team. You know,
like most of us.
Yeah, and so I'll be honest, I railed against the original 5 a little bit, but I was quickly told, nope, it's the original 5 or you're not doing the book. I was like, all right, well then I guess it's the original 5. And so once I resigned myself that that's what it was going to be, I just said, well, now I just want to tell what I consider classic X-Men stories with those characters. So I wanted to go into the stories that you might not have expected to see the original 5 in. And that's how you make it fresh, or you make it your own. I'm not going to tell the same story as someone else, I hope. So I just try to put my spin on those characters, and then adding Jimmy, Hudson, and Bloodstorm. I knew I wanted to add a couple of characters to the group at some point, and I kind of just I had other choices. There were other characters I thought about adding in there because I love the mutant universe so much. I love all those characters. So I'd add every character I could if but I decided to stick with a theme for those characters, and the theme being the original five are all out of place. They're not where they should be, and they all in theory have a counterpart. I know Cyclops right now doesn't, but they all have a counterpart. And Jean Grey didn't. There's another version of those characters in existence. So I wanted to put characters in that there were other versions of those characters in existence, and that's why we got Bloodstorm, who is a duplicate Storm, and Jimmy Hudson, who is technically a duplicate Wolverine, because it fit in with the theme of duplicate characters. They were out of place because they're either from another world or another time, and there is another counterpart for them somewhere out there.
And now you've brought back the old Brotherhood with the Old Man Deadpool and all of them,
Yes.
bringing back, I believe it was Bendis who wrote that in the
Bendis
Battle of the
created
Atom.
those, yeah.
So, and we haven't seen them in a while, and now they're back with a vengeance. So.
Yeah, they came back. So that arc was it was a time travel arc in X-Men Blue, and I wanted to show ramifications for the X-Men being out of place, and it's interesting because when I took over X-Men Blue, Dennis Hopeless had just written a story where the original 5 X-Men go back in time and see that they're there.
Yeah.
And they see themselves. And a lot of people said, well, that means the X-Men are alternate universe versions.
Right.
And when I took over X-Men Blue, I told the editorial team, I said, if I'm going to do it, these are the X-Men. They are not alternate versions. They are the X-Men from our universe. And they said, well, we've already done this. So the idea is the Brotherhood, the future Brotherhood, has gone back in time. And since the original 5 were missing, they just inserted themselves into that reality and took over for them.
Right. I was thinking that when Hank McCoy brought the original 5 to the future, he said, no, this will have no ramifications, as if he knew that this wouldn't.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, well, there's the thing. There's the rub of time travel.
Right.
In order for the original 5 X-Men, in order for time not to crumble, it means the original 5 X-Men have to go back. They have to come back, and they have to go back and not remember why they're there. And that was something that I thought is kind of interesting. It's kind of heartbreaking for those characters. In particular, Bobby, I think is it's kind of a cruel fate for Iceman to have to know I got to go back, and I can't remember I won't remember any of this.
Right. Now, taking over the Tick, how fun was that to take over the Tick? Because the original comics were so much fun, and now you brought it back with Jimmy.
Yeah.
How fun was that taking on this great character?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love the Tick, especially the era when the live action show,
the Warburton era,
era, and the cartoon was airing.
Right.
I have fond memories of that. I remember. The Tick, the network that the Tick was on, was owned by a very religious. Where I lived at the time, a church owned that network, and they still aired the cartoons. But in between the cartoons, they'd run bumpers where one of the preacher or whatever would come out and talk about what's going on and deliver messages of hope. And I remember so vividly, the Tick was on, and he comes out and he says, the Tick just wants to help people. Just wants to help people, and he's just helping people. That's a lot like Jesus. And he just says, the Tick's just a big blue Jesus. And I've never... So when New England Comics called me and they're like, hey, would you like to do a Tick? I was like, big blue Jesus. But I really wanted it to feel like classic Tick. And that's one of the...
It really looks that way.
Yeah,
like covers and everything.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted Jimmy Z. Johnston to write it with me, because there is no bigger Tick fan than Jimmy Z. Johnston.
Oh, yeah. Showing us his steel cage Tick.
Right, and I knew that if I was going to write a Tick book, I had to bring Jimmy. I've known Jimmy for many years now. He's co-written a number of things with me, and I knew that if I was going to do a Tick book, I needed him there for that. He's the Tick expert anyway. Yeah. So I wanted him to write it with me. So that's been a lot of fun on a lot of fronts.
And you and Tyler Crook here have been doing Harrow County. What can you tell us about Harrow County for those who may not know about it?
Well, if you don't know about Harrow County, it is a Southern Gothic fairy tale. It's a story of a young woman who's grown up out in rural North Carolina, and she's always known that ghosts and goblins and witches have always been out in the woods around her house. But what she didn't know is that she may very well be the reincarnation of this heinous witch that used to roam the area. So this story is where her discovery of who she is. Is she this witch? If she is, can she buck fate and be her own person? And it's a book I'm very proud of. I'm typically a pretty humble person, but I'm not humble when it comes to Harrow County. The book's amazing. I mean, I know that the book's awesome. It's a lot of people think of it as a horror story, but it's also a book that I think people who don't like horror can really get into it. Tyler described it yesterday as sweet horror, and I was like, all right, that fits the book perfectly. It's a sweet horror story. And we're actually getting ready to wrap the series up. Issue 32, which comes out in a couple of months, will be the final issue of the series. It's all in trade now, but you can start if you haven't read it, you can start reading it in trade and follow the story and know that in 32 chapters you will have read the entire story and see where everything goes.
Any plans for like a hardbound for that coming out?
Yeah, they announced it yesterday. I think in October of this year they're going to be releasing library editions, which are going to be oversized. They're going to have 8 issues worth in each hardcover, and they're also going to have a ton of extra material in them as well. They just announced those yesterday.
Fantastic. So what's next for you? Any new books on the horizon now that Harrow County's going to be coming to this conclusion?
Oh,
and
yeah,
coming out.
Yeah, I've got a ton of books that haven't been announced yet.
Okay.
Tyler Crook and I are working on developing some new stuff to follow up Harrow County with. We just Boom just announced a book called Bone Parish that is going to be coming out. I think in June is the first issue comes out, which is another horror story. It's again, I do a lot of horror stories, but I try to do different styles of horror stories. This one's very much a grounded crime story, but it also it follows. It's set in New Orleans, and it follows a family who's sort of this aspiring drug cartel. But their drugs are made from the remains of the dead, and that has some supernatural ramifications. So we just announced that, and I'm working on, and like I said, a ton of unannounced projects that are on the way.
Surprises.
That's right, surprises.
Well, Cullen, we thank you for your time this
Hey,
morning.
One more personal question. A mutual friend of ours, I just noticed she bought some comics from Aaron Myers on Twitter. I've been friends with Aaron for 5 or 6 years, and how are you enjoying Aaron's comics?
Man,
Did he rip you off? Did he give you a good price?
No, he didn't. No, Aaron, I will never say anything like that about Aaron.
Oh, he's a good guy.
Aaron,
no, just playing Aaron if you hear this.
Aaron impresses me because I watch his Twitter feed and just see the comics he's bought in collections.
Yeah, amazing.
And I want to do that. I want to be able to do what he does and go get these collections. And he messages me every now and again and says, it's easy to get into buying collections. I can tell you how. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go down. I do want to go down that rabbit hole, but I also know it would be such an investment of time and money.
If you watch his Twitter, it looks like a lot of work.
It does.
He hauls those long boxes in and has a station set up.
But I'm super impressed with the collections he buys. I can only imagine what his own collection looks like. And we have a little bit of a feud because I like to have my old comics bound. So I get them bound, and he does not agree with that philosophy at all.
He's a purist.
So occasionally I'll post a picture of a bound comic, and he'll send me a message saying how crazy I am to have bound these books. But it's a friendly feud.
Banter. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, we thank you for your time as always. Every time we've had you on, you've been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Can I just say how awesome Cullen is, though? How cool he is with the interview and how humble the guy is.
Yeah, it's kind of Jimmy too. Both of them. Those guys are both like really just down to earth. Like they seem like guys that you would bump into at your comic store and start talking comics with, and then find out it's Cullen Bunn.
Yeah.
It's like he's just that. He's that. He's not like like you get. In a good way, he's not like a presence like a Stan Lee would be, or like Neil Adams or so. Like that guy would like kind of shake you up a little bit.
Yeah,
but
and Neil Adams was there. Neil Adams was at the con, but
yeah, I never saw him at his sitting there signing. We were all over the place, and every time we walked by there, I never saw him. It must have been like very specific, short periods of time he was doing stuff. But with Cullen is very, very cool. It's a weird, awkward silence there.
I was checking something.
Okay, Cullen was a really nice guy. He said he's going to come back on proper again later too and discuss what he's got some projects there. He said at the end that he can't talk about quite yet, but he'll come on and talk later about it.
And just so everybody knows, other than Pat Gleason, because that was, like I said, we were in that VIP area, anybody that we walked up to, we talked to, like Cullen Bunn, Jimmy Z, people at Image, like Teenie Howard, Tim Seeley, one or both of us, we bought books from these people. For the most part, we did.
Oh yeah, well, and Jerry Duggan, I gave to his charity too, just because he didn't have time at the time when we were going to interview him, but he tried to work with us, and so
yeah. But
I mean, you should do something. I mean, you shouldn't just like, hey, give me what I want.
Yeah, and then leave. So definitely, if there's any tip, because it was weird, because some people did ask us while we were there, about how do you podcast, or I'm just starting podcasting. What do you guys do?
The first step before we even get to that is, first of all, Spin was in touch with Image and all these people way beforehand, and asking about this, and we got in touch with the Image booth and made sure it was cool to go walk up to Cullen and ask in the first place.
Oh yeah,
you got to do that. Clear all that shit before you go walking up to anybody.
But like I said, if you're going to talk to these people, also, grease the palm a little bit. Buy one of their books. That way, because they got to eat. This is how they make the money. And, in an artist...
Don't waste their time,
Yeah, definitely. I bought a lot of books. Shoot, I pretty much... Most of the booths we went to, I bought, as far as, like, the comic books, I bought something.
Well, for everybody we interviewed, they were like interesting. The reason we interviewed them is because we wanted to and we liked their stuff, so it made sense to buy something. Well, we were right there to buy it from them is even a cool thing to do. I mean,
yeah,
because I got the first 3 issues of the Tick signed by Jimmy Z and Cullen right there at the table while we were talking about getting the interview.
I'll tell you this,
so,
very
cool shit.
Very cool. Big Dog Inc. I bought the first trade and a variant cover for their book Critter. And I read that trade while I was at the airport going home. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. Because I can see his influences in the book. There's a character in the book that's basically like Quicksilver. There's another character that's, they got their strongman, their Superman type character. They've got their dark characters. They got one character that's really interesting. He's comes from the future, and he knows everything that happens in the timeline. He knows when when a hero will appear, when a villain will appear, because he's studied the timeline. So he's in this timeline, but he doesn't get involved. Because he doesn't want to change the timeline. And then when something does alter that alters from what he knows, he goes flipping. He goes like crazy. Like the timeline is going to get fucked up. So I really enjoyed that, and I read the first issue of that Battle Cats book I picked up. I gotta figure out. I gotta remember who the publisher is. But they gave me a copy of the first.
Yeah, I've got that. I think I've got that card. That's why you don't have it, because I found it after you already got on the plane, and I've got a business card from the guy. So I think it's that.
Yeah, just snapshot it to me. But I read the first issue of that book. Man, I actually dig it. Like they built like a whole world. And I think I like it because it kind of has like a Warcraft kind of feel to it. It's like Warcraft meets Thundercats.
Yeah.
So that is like right up my alley. And they built this whole world, like the different tribes of cats and the powers.
That's what I kind of wanted Thundercats to be when it was first on. I remember the premiere when I saw it like on primetime when it premiered.
Oh yeah. Do you remember that when cartoons used to premiere in primetime? That was a great time.
We talked about it on the show before.
That was a great time.
Oh yeah, well, especially Thundercats, they had a big ad campaign for that leading up to it. I remember like being real excited for it when it was going to be on, and that's kind of what I hoped it would be. It was like a more developed world like that. But it's a kid show too.
Yeah.
What do you expect? Well, Thunder the Barbarian was pretty hardcore for its day.
And I will say this: I'm probably going to take a little bit of time out of the review show to talk about Sonic from IDW.
I was going to ask you if they were used any old characters, if they had any of the other characters you were looking for in there.
So far, it's just been a few characters, like the characters that are actually in the games. But They're introducing new characters there, and I'm hoping I see some of my characters from like Saturday Morning Sonic and things like that. I'm digging it so far. I'll go more into it in the review show, but I'm digging it. IDW, I'm digging it.
I finished the book by Marnie. I hope I'm saying this right. Marnie Jolin.
Mm-hmm.
The Deadman Tell Tales, 22 short stories for courses. We'll be in. She may be listening to the show. We don't know. If she's listening to the show, I will be in touch to get you on in a couple of weeks after we get through the bulk of our C2E2 interviews.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. A lot of. I could see a lot of influences, and I could see a lot of potential for something bigger, maybe.
Yeah,
like a long form. I think.
There's so much.
We'll see. We'll talk.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about because upcoming episodes after next week, you'll hear. I've got to get into the Tokyo Ghoul live action film. That'll come on a show coming soon. I still got to watch my From Asia with Lust movies that I got from Troma.
I almost forgot about those. And signed by Lloyd signed them.
Lloyd signed them. I'm gonna bring. I'll talk those at length, and then Scorpion Thunderbolt. Which I watched the other night on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I found? The prequel, or the first movie in the James Ryan series of movies, but I found Kill or Be Killed is the first one I watched, and then the one after that is like Kill and Kill Again, and those are some good ones too. We'll watch those. We're gonna get back to the movie dubs. We're working on. Some stuff with Amazon. It's been hard with Amazon.
Yeah. So to finish out this episode of interviews, we got the first day we actually met the ladies from Tokyo Pop. Fantastic booth. I'm so happy for Tokyo Pop because we got there on day one and they kind of talked me into getting a couple books, which I did for my kids because they were like, "This is all we brought." And it's a good thing I bought those books because when we went there on Sunday, they had like 2 books left, like 1 copy of each book of these 2 books. So I'm super happy that they sold out. And that's another publisher that I'm contacting that they said they'd love to work with us. We'll get some preview stuff from Tokyo Pop. I might let my son do those reviews. Hey, you never know.
I think that would be great. You have to clear that with your wife and all that. You
definitely.
You have to go through like the security clearance.
Though,
and all that business. But it would be cool.
He wore his Nerd Rage Renegade shirt to school the other day.
Oh, good.
He was repping Black Phillip at the elementary school.
As every young man should.
As every young man should.
Get a club going to listen to the show.
But we had the honor to sit down with Kat Jackson, who is a up-and-coming manga creator for Tokyo Pop. She had originally written this story out, I think she said in comic form, you'll hear in the interview, and then now she's converting that into manga format, and this is all part of Tokyo Pop bringing a diverse line of female manga creators from all over the world.
That seems so hard to do to me. I don't know if my brain just doesn't work right.
Yeah, but beautiful stuff. Her stuff was really good looking. I can't wait to read it. So once again, this is day 3. This is the last interview that we did on day 3 before we went on our shopping spree. So this is Kat Jackson with Tokyo Pop.
All right, just state your name for everything.
Well, my name's Kat Jackson. Oh God, I messed it up. I'm sorry.
So tell us a little bit. First, you had a comic book that you're transferring into a manga. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, originally, when I was studying visual narrative at Ringling College, I was really into the manga culture, but I wanted to create a comic kind of due to my professor's influence. They were all comic makers, and since I studied animation, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do comics or manga. I chose comics because most of my professors were more familiar with that.
Right.
And then after I graduated in 2015, I kind of just played around a little bit with style. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and in June of 2016, I actually joined the Pop Comics app, and I loved it. It was really fun, and I actually got a message from the staff saying that they wanted to feature the comic. Like, wow, that's great. That's really
awesome.
cool. Yeah. And so they went ahead and featured me. They did a pop showcase, which they usually do on Mondays.
Right.
They featured me, and then it's been 2 years now. I'm starting to realize, oh, hey, there may be more.
Right.
So I probably should reformat this, because you never know. So I'm really, really excited. So now I'm actually taking all that I have so far, which is about 40 pages, completely reformatting it, completely redrawing it, making it like the best it can be so that I can hopefully pitch it someday.
And the name of the book is?
It's called Noir, A Cult of the Deathly Divine.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Essentially what it is it's a murder mystery at its core. This little bird is out in a thunderstorm looking for his teacher. He can't find her. It's a murder mystery, so spoiler alert, she dies. Spoiler alert. And so the whole main plot of the comic is that he's trying to prove, hey, this person did it. And he's like, wait, no, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not guilty. And he ends up kind of tricking this accuser into a contract to serve him for 100 years. And so the plot is those two not getting along real well. Well, the contract that this little bird does is illegal, and the god of death is now after him for doing this, so now he's got a target on his back. And it's just kind of like these little misadventures, and then all these really weird disappearings and massacres start happening all over the island, and they're like, what's going on? This is really strange. And it's really a multi-plot series that you kind of see this character has this plot, this character has this plot, this character has this one, and they're all intertwined.
Okay.
So I'm really, really excited to start bringing in these other characters, these other places, and show that there's really so much more that I'm hiding beneath the surface. I'm so excited.
Do you have any? We've seen the manga adaptations of Nightmare Before Christmas and some of the others. Is there any property that is a dream property that you want to convert over yourself? And
oh my God, I would love to work on Moana. I would love Moana is my favorite absolute Disney series. I would die to work on that one. I absolutely love the movie. But I've been watching the Disney series, and probably Moana would be my favorite. Mulan's already taken, so that one's already gone. So I was really thrilled and super disappointed at the same time to see that one already done. But if I were ever to be approached in the future, I would love to work on Moana. I just love that Polynesian culture. In fact, my own comic is based out of Indonesia.
Okay.
And so I researched the culture and the mythologies for 5 years before I even started drawing the comic. So I wanted to be as accurate as I possibly could.
Right. So with Tokyo Pop and all that, they're doing a lot more female manga creators and writers nowadays. How does it feel to be a part of that, and that we're seeing a lot more female creators coming into the manga scene? Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. When I was younger, I really loved reading all of these manga. I started with Sailor Moon, Wolf's Rain, Inuyasha, and when I saw Inuyasha was done by a woman, and Ranma 1/2, if you're familiar with those, by Rumiko Takahashi, I got so excited because I'm like, oh my god, a woman did these. Because you look at things like Bleach and it's done by a man, and it's super popular. Most of the manga that my friends read were all done by men. Right. And I mean, as cool as they are and as popular as they are, I'm like, oh come on, I want to read this. But then I realized a lot of my other favorites, like Hiroma Arakawa, she did Fullmetal Alchemist. That's by a woman. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, that's my favorite series ever. And so we had that kind of in the beginning, but now that we're getting that, you're seeing it more and more and more. And not only are you just seeing women manga creators, you're seeing international women creators. Right. Which is why I really love getting on board with Tokyo Pop, because we've got creators now from Sweden and Switzerland, Iraq. We've got creators from all over the world that we're starting to review. There's even some from China and Korea we're hoping to bring on board that we're in talks to. But to be a part of that culture that's showing other creators and younger women who are just starting to get into this, maybe in high school, maybe getting now in college, or even as young as little kids. Mm-hmm. It's super exciting to oh my god, they may look up to me. I feel like I've got so much I gotta do, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you noticed being in the con scene recently that there's been more women coming to cons and more little girls in costume and girls reading manga and getting into comics, especially with the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement and all that. Is that I'm sure you're inspired by that as well in your work.
Oh yeah, I've definitely noticed an increase in women. When I first started going to cons, the first con I went to was the Nandas Con in Colorado. I believe that was in 2010 that I went to that one for the first time. But at first, it was mostly men creators. And even when I was at Ring Lane, the majority of the comic creators there were men, even at the school. And now that we kind of have this greater movement going on, it's nice to see the other female creators not being afraid to come to the cons. But it's still funny. I'm still mistaken for a man. if they just see the awkward cat or I used to go by just awkward, and my icon is one of my male characters. And I don't mean to do that, but it confuses people, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a woman, and I kind of sound like a dude a little bit. And so people get surprised and like, oh my gosh, you're a girl. I still get that, but I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing. I'm just excited to see that there are more women coming on, and when you go to the Artist Alley, there are more girls.
Oh yeah.
And especially in the manga scene, you're starting to see more women in general, which is kind of interesting and confusing at the same time, but I love seeing it.
Well, and also being here, where everybody here at this booth here at Tokyo Pop is a woman with fantastic female-driven books that are out here. You've got one book left on the table. How does that feel coming here and like everything's sold out?
Oh my gosh, it's super stellar. I've never had a con before where everything's sold out. I've had cons before that were profitable, that at the end of the day I was still in the green, but I've never been to a con before where I've sold absolutely everything out. This is the first time that's happened where I've been there. I'm just super freaking stoked that I can be a part of that, and like mostly it's been like little kids and girls coming up and buying our books. The majority of our buyers have been women, and that's why I'm so surprised. I'm like, okay, that's a girl, that's a girl. I've kind of like been keeping like the mental tally of this,
right?
And it's amazing to see that not only are the creators becoming women, there's more women interested in this, but just to sell out of everything except one copy of Goldfish out of all that we brought, like I think at least 100 books, they're all gone. And
how does that feel that more little girls, I mean, talking about, we know a lot of teenage girls will get into manga, because of the costume, especially with the cosplay. We've seen tons this weekend.
I saw a mother dressed as Hey Hey and a little girl dressed as Moana, and it was just the cutest thing that I'd ever seen.
How does it feel that little girls, especially the younger age, are getting into these animes and discovering these characters and then coming and reading the mangas? Because I also feel with reading a manga, like my kids read them, and most of them are still in that Japanese format, and it kind of helps them read better because they're learning a couple different ways to read. How does that feel here at this con, seeing these little girls come up and just bright-eyed to get these books?
Oh, it's really exciting. I know that when I was first starting cons, my family was horrified that I was coming to these things because they're like, oh my gosh, it's a different culture, and oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like, do you know what like the manga and anime culture is? It's so bad and dark and it's sad. They had such a negative perception of it.
Right.
And to see that there's more children, especially young girls, and just young children that are coming in and getting exposed to this culture, they're going to grow up with it, and this is kind of, I don't know, it exposes them to more cultures. They're going to be a little bit more open-minded about things. They're learning to read left and right. They're being exposed to more different art styles, and they're seeing that this is an actual viable job. I know growing up, I never heard that this was allowed.
Right.
Like, I'm not allowed to be an artist. I have to be something that actually makes money, which I'm making money now, so whatever. But it's nice to see these kids coming here so that we can talk to them and they can see, oh look, she's a creator too. I really can be an artist too. That's so cool, and they can support their own friends that they choose to do that because they've been here, they've experienced this culture. And it's not just drawing, it's people who want to be gamers, people who want to be voice actors. They're being exposed to this whole culture that arts are totally possible if you really want to do it.
Yes, definitely.
That's probably the best part about this, is to show this generation it's not impossible, because that's what I was told growing up my whole life, and I'm 26. I was told it's not possible, and I'm so happy to see these little kids. They're like, I like to draw too. Can you help me? I'm like, dude, yeah. Here's my best advice, and I write it down and I give it to them, and they're like the happiest little chick. It's so cute.
It's so interesting because they're like right now. We know Tom King's writing Batman.
Yes.
But his artist is Joelle Jones, and she's a fantastic artist. And like you said, go to Artist Alley, and there's so many amazing female artists and writers down there. It definitely is. The culture is changing, and just I've always said, one of the earliest superheroes was this character called Miss Fury, created by a female. So females have always been a part of it.
Yeah.
It's just, I think people forget that
they've always been there.
That they've always been there. Early Marvel books, there were female artists on early Marvel books.
And that's one of the other interesting things that I've noticed is a lot of people, when they think of artists, they always think of the males. They weren't really publicized that much. Granted, back in the day, the artists weren't talked about near as much as the writers. That's just the way the culture was way back when. But it's nice to see now that promoting your artists has become such an important part of the business. It's nice to see women artists. One of my favorite is Fiona Staples.
Yes, she's.
Oh
really
my
good.
gosh! In fact, I'm sitting like right across the hall from her, the table across from her stuff. It's just so exciting. And she's probably go ahead, take one. She's one of my like favorite people that I love to follow. I love to see what she's doing because Saga is just like my favorite series ever. It's like the only real comic series that I like buy every single book. I pre-order every single book. I am so hardcore about that series. But she's really one of the main idols I've been using because she was really one of the first female artists I really got behind as far as comics.
Now, when are we going to? Now you're transferring everything over.
Yep.
When will the book be hitting shelves?
Well, the first full book, I don't know when the first full issue will be done. The first full issue will be 176 pages of interiors. But what I'm going to do is I can start building that interest and start putting this out there. Is at San Diego Comic-Con, I'll be entering with Tokyo Pop, so I'll be physically out there with them in San Diego. I'm also going to drop the first, I believe it's 44 pages of the manga online. I'll be dropping it on Pop Comics. I'm not sure if I'm going to be putting it anywhere else yet. I'm going to try to keep it exclusive to them, but we're going to see what happens.
Okay.
But for sure, San Diego Comic-Con, I believe that's July 22nd, I believe.
I believe so.
That starting day is going to be the day that I drop it. So it'll be available all weekend and forever then.
All right, sounds
good. I'm really excited to get it out there. I've been working real hard on it.
Well, we thank you so much. We're going to be putting this out, and we're going to be looking for the book, and we'll be getting the book.
Oh, awesome.
Right.
I'll keep in touch with you guys. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you to everybody who sat down with us on that for the comic book interviews. It was a delight. It was fantastic. It was just great that they took time out of their schedules to sit and talk to us.
Yeah, the thing about there a lot of stuff we missed because of they filled up the press bookings like immediately.
Crazy.
Honestly. We got bumped pretty fast to somewhere in a very long list. I don't know if we were at the bottom, but we were somewhere in a very long list. But we missed out on a lot, but we got some good stuff. We still got some good ones.
Yeah.
And we set up ones for later. Like the ones we couldn't get, like we set up for like later on, like coming up on the show regular.
Yeah.
More time anyway. They'll be better on the show than on the comic than on the C2E2 floor.
Definitely. And next week, that's about it for this week. You get an interview-heavy 2 weeks of interviews. Next week, we're going to be bringing you the interviews from when we were actually doing the roundtable press rooms.
Yeah, that was another completely unique. It's doing like a press conference. It was like completely unique thing that I'd never done before.
Definitely.
So we were definitely having a good time at this thing.
Oh, we had so much fun. So we want to make sure you keep up with everything. So make sure you follow us on Twitter, SpaceChief75, and then the Nerd Rage Renegades official Twitter, NRDRG Renegades. Go to Instagram. I have been like a madman on Instagram for the last week.
There's some good pictures. We got some really good pictures.
And I'm not done yet. I still got a shit ton more. It's just a lot of them I have to go through the business cards.
Yeah. That was a pain. I knew that would be a painstaking process, but it was still a better idea than trying to get it all on your phone.
Oh, definitely. And one even said that somebody was trying to like do it on their phone with them standing there. And we brought a book. We had a book with us where we took down everybody's Twitter accounts and their Instagram accounts, and everybody was like, you know what, that is really smart that you guys have a book that people can just write it down in, and then you can just go through it.
Yeah, and then you just follow it backwards in the pictures in your phone backwards, and you can match them up.
Yeah, best thing we could have taken. To be truthfully honest. But be on the lookout in the future. We've got a lot more comic people. I spoke to Stacy Lee while we were there. She does art. She did art for Silk, and things like that for Marvel. A fantastic artist. Also talked to Teenie Howard, who's currently doing Hack/Resurrection with Tim Seeley as the editor on that, and also talked to Leila Del Duca, who did Shudder for Image. So we'll be contacting all of them to see about getting us coming on the show to talk proper, and so many more because we made some contacts while we were there. We made some contacts.
Oh yeah, some pretty cool stuff, and I think we should say again how cool Lloyd is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lloyd is the man.
we hung out with Lloyd like all weekend, and he was just the coolest guy ever.
Yeah, we're part of the Trauma family now.
Yeah, those people are the coolest. I'm telling you, when you're as strange and like punk rock as like Trauma is compared to like what's going on like comic books and anime and shit like that. Like they're the nicest fucking people in the world in the whole place.
Yeah, and also, if you want, I believe there is. I'm not sure if it's on Amazon or Netflix, but there's some. Oh no! You know what it was? I was looking on Vudu. That's what it was. I was looking on Vudu. If you want to support Lloyd, all the Toxic Avenger movies are on Vudu. And you know Trauma gets a cut of that money if you buy them.
That's true. And I think everything's on YouTube, too, on the YouTube channel.
Most of them are on YouTube, yeah. I got to watch I think it's like The Temptation or The Seduction of Dr. Fugazi. Got to watch that shit. But once again, check out the Instagram. A lot of good pictures are going up there. And now that I put Instagram back on my phone and I realized it's easy, all I got to do is put hashtags up. And people find it on their own and like it and follow, man, we're going to be putting a lot of comic stuff up on there. Any books we find, anything we do. Free comic book days coming up, so we'll have pictures from there.
Oh, for sure. I actually got the vault all cleaned up today.
That is looking good, man. Looking good.
Finally got all the books back. I have no more room for anything. And as a matter of fact, there's a box that doesn't fit in there that I've got all the stuff I need to read in right here.
Yeah. I went and got all my Marvel books today and other company books today other than DC. And I've been reading most of the day. I've been having fun. So, with that, come back next week for some more interviews. Crystal will tell you all the places that we're at.
The Nerd Rage Renegades are on the air every Wednesday on Podbean, Stitcher, Player FM, iTunes, Google Play, and every Thursday on GamingRebellion.com, Filling the Void Podcast Network, and now iHeartRadio.
So until next week with more C2E2 interviews, have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Nerd Rage Renegades.